I'm back. That was once the famous first words, or the words from Michael Jeffrey Jordan when he had left and came back. Well, I haven't been going that long, folks, but I have been off for a full freaking month, enjoying my summer hiatus, and I have absolutely enjoyed it. But guess what? It is August the 2nd. Can you believe it? And your boy is back, the host of Real Talk for Real Men. I am your boy, Lee Black. So hopefully we will have some people join us. If not, we'll do what we do. We will pivot, adjust, and keep on moving this train along the track. But I do see I got my co-host in the house, Mick Mac. What's happening from Memphis, Tennessee?
What's going on, Black? How are you?
I'm doing good, baby. How are you doing this evening?
I am all right. We get a nice little break from the heat.
Yes, we
It's
do.
beautiful outside right now.
Here too, compared to the 90s that we've had, and really at triple digit temperatures, it's nice. So it's supposed to rain, which I love rain. So I'm absolutely enjoying it. I gotta say something. You look different, McMac. You look stunning.
I look tan.
Oh my God, is that what it is?
Yeah, I activated the melanin in my skin.
Oh shit! You look absolutely magnificent, sweetheart. And I don't mean that like you don't always look good, but I'm saying that really favors you. You look good, McMahon.
Oh, my tan is hilarious. Yes. So you should see it. It's hilarious.
I love it, sweetheart. Well, look, I'm glad to see you. We've been off for over a month, a little bit. So thank you for joining. We got the super fan in the house who says she's glad we're back. Grown woman, don't try me. Good to see you as always. She said we've been gone long enough. And she's speaking to you, Mick Mac. So she says, hello, Tasha. So, absolutely. So we'll give it the prerequisite 5 minutes to see if we've got anybody to join. But you're probably wondering what we're talking about today. So I will introduce that if we get into it. But before we get into the topic, I just wanted to say, hopefully everybody's enjoying the last legs of summer, because whether you know it or not, folks, summer is headed towards bye-bye. We are, it's back to school time for many of us. So I wanted to shout out the parents, who braved dealing with kids home during this hot, inclement weather, all the shit that's been going on. I know y'all have got to be happy to see these little SOBs, and I mean that in a good way, going back someplace every day. So I definitely wanted to shout out for parents. So God bless you. That's not my, I don't have to deal with that, but God bless you guys. So anyway, we're going to jump this thing off, and we got a couple of visits. So what are we talking about today? The topic is something that caught my attention because of the time off that I've been. So if you find this interesting, hang around. The topic today is 1950s marriage traditions. And I'm asking a question. Are they antiquated, or are they do they have some missed value in them? And I'm going to explain to you why this topic was something that made me want to talk about it. Now, Cece says summer went too fast, and Philly kids are going back on the 25th of this year. Yeah, I was just out in them streets, Cece. Tasha reminded me it's the first of the month. We've got a break in the weather, and it's back to school. There's a lot going on in them streets right now. So, and that may be very reason why we may not see the postings, because they do have one still school-age child. Her son is in college. Shout out to Hannah and Bert for that. But they definitely have still a teenager in the house getting ready for school. So that's got to come with all kinds of things. And she's a girl. So shopping for a girl to get back to school, I don't know. I guess got to be a whole nother thing. So we're not going to have Sherry. She is visiting family and doing her thing. So I don't know if she's watching, but, we're going to get into this topic. So right off the bat, let me ask a question. And Cece, if you're watching, anybody watching, you're more than welcome to comment as well. When you think about marriages, and there's a reason why I went to 1950 in particular, so I can share this with you. I was gone on my vacation to Little Rock, Arkansas to celebrate my brother-in-law and sister's 48th anniversary. Now you might say, well, why didn't they just wait till the 50th, right? The thing of it is that my brother-in-law has had a series of health issues, particularly started this year off. And you know what? He made the decision that, I'm going to celebrate now because tomorrow's not promised to us. You know what I'm saying? And yeah, Cece, it was unbelievable because we just don't see that type of commitment anymore in marriages for people staying it that long and weather all of the storms that go along with that. And it was one of the best celebrations I've ever seen. Almost 120 people showed up. Just it was to celebrate them and to see put in visual form two young people who met. He met my sister when she was 16 years old. They have been together since she was 16 years old. Have 48 years of marriage. And so since tomorrow's not promised to us, and I should share with the family, 2 days before I left on this trip, a friend of mine committed suicide. And the very first day when I got there on a Friday, that next morning, the young lady that I had invited with me, her dad died. So it was bittersweet in many ways, but it still warranted celebrating two people who found each other and weathered all of these storms, and to sit there in a room to absorb the magnificence of a committed marriage, all the ups and downs. So that's what made me want to talk about this. Cece says, sure don't. I thought I was doing something at 30 years.
That is still doing something, though.
We don't see that, CC. We don't see people making that commitment. So I'm truly hoping to hear your input, And so right off the bat, I want to know, Tasha, just from you, you grew up in a two-parent household. I did not, What are your thoughts on, just right off the bat, when you talk about the traditional marriage setting? You think it's antiquated? Are you for it, against it? What are your thoughts on that? I'm curious.
The institution of marriage, yeah, I'm for it. But I would even say, though, like the marriage that I grew up witnessing probably wasn't considered a traditional one in the traditional sense, in the most traditional sense. Both my dad and my stepmom worked. They as far as like chores around the house, they both split the chores, and of course the kids, we had chores.
Right.
Yard work and stuff. My stepmom loved doing yard work, so there wasn't anything that was just kind of like, oh well, that's his job, like taking out the trash. No, it was never just one of those things. So I maybe like bits and pieces of it, like you could it's one of those things, like you pick and choose like what you need from it and apply it to where you are. But I mean, I guess I saw a more modern version of it. Even my mom and my stepdad in their marriage, it's not a traditional one in that sense either.
Right.
They both work, they both do chores around the house and everything. So it's not just all on one person or another. Now, granted, they got married after their kids were a little bit older, so it wasn't where where you got to see them, like the rearing of the children, so to speak. My stepmom was just as much as a disciplinarian as my father, was. But of course, it's still, it rang that bell of wait till your father gets home kind of thing. It still put the fear of God in you.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so it was just a modern twist on it. It worked. Let me say that. They've been together since '94, so it worked.
You went right where I was going, because again, I've been married before, for those that may not know. I love how you mentioned that you take bits and pieces, and that's what we're going to talk about, because so many times, and you and I have had this conversation a dozen times, how we sometimes as a society, we tend to throw the baby out with the bathwater. Anything traditional, oh my God, that doesn't work anymore. The Bible is completely outdated. The marriage vows themselves, I hate everything about it. And so we found ourselves reinventing the wheel, but to what end? And so I want to have this conversation, and I do want to talk about what do you think works, and what do you feel may be too antiquated. And to set the stage, I picked the 50s because I wanted to go back for a reason. I want to share a couple of things with you, but Cece says, right, Tasha, marriages were a partnership. Some things are more suited for men, but mostly chores are shared. So I love that. And I'm going to share my views because I question whether my views are still too antiquated in my beliefs. So I want to have this conversation. But to set the stage, we're going to start by talking about marriages from the 1950s. So I want you guys to visualize I Love Lucy. One of my favorite shows. And when you go back and if you think about that show, I don't know if you remember how whenever they showed a bedroom scene, they had separate beds. They never showed them in the bed together because at that time, it just, think about Leave It to Beaver and shows like that. It just wasn't depicted.
Well, they were also interracial, so they definitely were not going to show them either.
I never thought about that, Tasha, that they actually were, for that was an interracial marriage. You know,
yeah.
No, I didn't till you just said that. But Leave It to Beaver and all those different types of shows. But you know what was funny to me is thinking about June Cleaver, Lucy. Look at how they dressed every day. Every day, how Ricky got up and what Lucy wore around, even when she was cleaning the house. And so it put me in a mind of, I want to really put this under the microscope. And she said, yeah, it was forbidden. Yeah, you couldn't show that on TV. And look how far we've come to what we see now and how marriage is depicted. So I picked an article where it specifically talked about 1950s. And here's the things it said about it. It says, marriage in the 50s was the absolute ghetto. The groom stands firm, his role cemented as the towering authority, his new wife already bracing for a life of cooking, cleaning, and dimming her own ambitions. So I want to talk about whether that is true. And I'm glad I've got me and you, Tasha, because I want to think about, in my case, my mom and the role she played. But even I got to witness my brother-in-law's sister's marriage. I moved in with them when I was 17 years old. So we're talking 40 years ago, folks. 40 years ago, I got a chance to witness up close in person a traditional marriage, so to speak. And I want to put that under my, and it wasn't just them. I was heavily influenced by all of the couples I saw around me. I migrated from New York, and all of a sudden I was in this world of traditional marriages. And so I took a lot away from that. Cece says, what we see now is like porn compared to then. Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, and so this article talks about how the male breadwinner, female homemaker model was an anomaly made possible only by an extraordinary economic boom. So we're going to certainly kind of examine this in the context of now. We'll kind of talk about what it was in the 50s. But again, we're going to go through these. And I want to talk about, again, I want to get your honest opinions on what do you think, is this too antiquated to integrate now in a marriage or relationship? Or is there still some value in some of the things that we saw in these marriages? So let's talk about the very first one. Tasha, you mentioned it right off the bat. In the 1950s, there were rigid gender roles that were set in stone. There were things back then that the man did and that the woman did. In particular, husbands worked and wives stayed at home. Right there, and Tasha, you mentioned that was not the case with you, watching your parents. But I want to know, I'm interested to ask this question. You know where I'm going with this, right?
Okay, probably.
Would you be? Let me set the stage. Tasha and I, we hate work. We're fucking tired of working. We're tired of working.
I hate my job right now. Absolutely despise my job right now.
And Tasha, without revealing your age, when did you first start working?
My first job I was 12.
Okay. So I want to ask a question. And Cece, I definitely want to hear your views on this. What do you think, Tasha, would you be comfortable returning to this dynamic where the husband works and you stay home? Do you think that's too antiquated for today, or is there some value and benefit to that?
If you asking me right now on August 2nd, 2025, if I don't have to
Okay.
have kids,
Okay.
hell yes, I would stay the fuck home. That's how tired I am. That's how tired I am of working. I just for a little while, but I know me, it would get old real quick. It
Okay.
it, w- it
Okay.
would, because there's only so much stuff that I would be cleaning. I think of that episode of My Wife and Kids, when Jay when she decided to stay at home for the kids, and she cleaned everything, the whole house, she did everything, and she went to
Right.
Michael,
Right.
she was like, "Look, I did everything," and he kept suggesting stuff, and she was like, "It's done. It's done. It's done. It's nothing." And she lost her sense of self, and she felt
Mm.
unfulfilled.
Okay. Okay.
I know at some point I would run into the same thing. Like, I done did everything. Now I need another challenge.
Oh, you bring up so much interesting points there. Cece says, that's not me. I don't want to be home. As a retiree, I still want to work. LOL. God bless you, Cece. Look, I would love if I could be a house husband. That's a whole other conversation. But his this might shock a lot of people. I wish I could do it economically.
Mm.
I would be perfectly okay. So for even people who hear me talk about what I won't spend, this, that, and the other, let me be clear. If I could wave a wand and I made enough money where I could support my wife or girlfriend not having to work, I wouldn't have a problem with it. Here is where it gets interesting, because it says from the 50s now, women were expected. That's the key words there.
Mm-hmm.
Women were expected to manage the household, raise the kids, and provide emotional support while looking picture perfect. And that's why I gave the example of Lucy and June Cleaver, because now you mentioned, Tasha, about if you didn't have to have kids, have to deal with kids. Does that change some if these are the expectations that, okay, if you get to stay home, because you mentioned the example of Jade doing everything, but what about the other part of it? You got to look picture perfect. I'm looking at your face.
That's fine. That's there is a literal movement right now of Black women who are looking for that soft life. It's a joke, but it's the
Oh, wow.
Hardwick soft life thing, where they
Oh,
marry
wow.
rich white men, but
Oh,
they
wow.
live that soft life but here's the thing, though. A lot of them, though, they're the modern version of living the soft life and managing the home. They have maids. They don't clean the house. They have maids. They have a cleaning service. But that's that soft life that people are looking for. So there are some women that, yeah, if that's all I had to be responsible for, was looking good
Do you know I'm
and
okay with
clean.
that? Do you
Okay,
know Tasha, do you know I'm actually okay with, again, if I was making enough and I didn't have to worry about the other things, because for me, as tired as I am of working, what's very difficult living alone is that I have to do everything else.
Mm-hmm.
Tasha and I, we live alone, and so it's a double edged sword sometimes, that we have to go to work, because otherwise you fucking gonna get put out, your rent don't get paid, your cell phone gonna get cut off, your water, lights, gas. But the other part is, you take today, both Tasha and I was out running errands, not because we want to. We have to.
Yeah.
There is nobody else that's going to make sure that the cleaning supplies get replenished, that the refrigerator and the cupboards get restocked, that the car has to be washed off. All of these are things that I have to do. So I would be okay if I knew that I didn't have to do the other things, if I could just focus on going to work. because today's reality check, according to this article, it says in 2024, 60% of married couples with children both work outside the home, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Shared domestic duties aren't revolutionary, they're Tuesday night. In other words, that's just the norm, So that's where we were compared to where we are. But if I'm hearing you right, there's that value, that methodology is not totally without some benefits. Am I wrong?
Exactly. No, it's you're not wrong. No, because it would alleviate that pressure from the woman, that mental pressure from women. It would at least move it. But again, for me, not having kids would be that would be the only way I would do it, because you add in the factor of having children, that adds a whole other element.
I agree.
And that can that can mentally wear on a woman, being the primary caretaker and taking care of the home.
I agree with you.
That'll wear on.
I agree with you 1,000%. So that's where that picturesque, dad gets to come home and he gets to sit down and you pour him a drink, where mom has been dealing with the kids and she just kind of walks over to dad and go, Cleaver's been real bad today. Now that shit wouldn't work, because women are not going to go for that. So I agree. Kids change the equation 100%.
Well, think about it too. All of like the popular shows that are based like in their time frame, those families also didn't have multiple children. They usually had one or two, because they knew that's unrealistic. That's correct. They might have one, maybe two kids.
Maybe two. I think of Leave It to Beaver, Wally and Beaver, and that's about the biggest you saw. Okay, then we moved up to the 70s, and it was a real boom to see. That's why the Brady Bunch was so popular, because now you had a dynamic that had never been seen. A woman who was a divorcee with fucking 3 girls, meets this guy with 3 girls, and that it was must see TV back then, because how they gonna the term blended family wasn't a thing, And I remember those early shows. They showed the kind of growing pains of the daughters not being accustomed to Mike, because he wasn't their fault. Remember that? That was a very interesting dynamic to watch. But like you said, kids change that whole dynamic, which brings me to a part of this we mentioned already, but this is another full aspect of the 1950s tradition, where the perfect housewife ideal was a basic full-time performance. And I'm going back to Lucy and those examples. And again, I'm reading a little bit, since it's just you and I talking. I get to read some of this stuff here. It says, think Instagram influencers have it tough? Try being a 1950s housewife. These women were expected to maintain spotless homes, greet their husband with genuine enthusiasm, not the fake con we use when relatives visit, and have dinner ready by 6 sharp. And I laughed when I read that, because it says it was about performing perfection 24/7. So before you answer, Tasha and Cece, now I want to transpose to one of my favorite songs by Destiny's Child. Where they was talking about, I can't think of the hook is how they'll have dinner and they'll braid your hair, how they keep that, I'll keep myself up. It's one of my favorite songs, because in that song, they're singing about maintaining their figure, dinner, helping him braid his hair, making sure that man has everything he needs. And there was a recent example of, is it Jeezy? Jeezy's wife came out just this week, or was this week or last week, and talked about the fact that, and I know Jeezy's one of your favorite artists, Tasha.
Jeezy is not one of my favorite artists.
Really? Jeezy? Or is it Gucci Man? It's one of the two. It's not, so maybe not Jeezy. Maybe it's Gucci Man. His wife says that he doesn't have to worry about anything. She takes care of the money and she says she dresses him. I watched this thing where she said she picks his clothes out. Yeah, it was Gucci Man. Yeah, I'm right. She picks his clothes out. She says she want him focused on doing his job as that. And I thought that was so avant-garde. What do you think, Tasha, about the perfect housewife ideal?
That's why them bitches was on Quaaludes. Bring back Quaaludes. Bring them back. Bring them back because they got tired of playing that whole facade. It'll work for some. It'll work for a moment.
Okay.
But always feeling like you have to be on, you have to be in a performance, you have to have that smile plastered across your face. Everything has to be perfect will run someone crazy. And that's
Gotcha.
oftentimes why a lot of them over, like they secretly had problems. They either popped pills, they drank, they had
Wow.
issues. But yes, bring back Quaaludes, bring them back. We need them.
You know what? I never thought about that, Tasha, that secretly a lot of women from those past eras had addiction issues because of that.
Yeah.
To have to be on and hide their true selves. And I can only imagine that when father, dad, husband goes to bed, wife is probably up pulling her fucking hair out or doing whatever, leading this secret life because she has to be on all the time. So yeah, that's a great point. So for me, when I think about this tradition, this is definitely antiquated. I don't think that's realistic. But there are certain elements that I do appreciate from having someone keep themselves up. Now, this goes both ways.
Mm-hmm.
This goes both ways. But I do think this is a main element, though, McMack and CC, of why a lot of men, black men in particular, I'm going to say it and I'm getting in trouble. I'm sorry, I'm going to say it. I do think in many ways, this is my personal opinion for what it's worth, why a lot of black men pick white women or others. Because of, we want to pretend that the angry black woman is not a real thing. It is. Now, let me be clear. I think black women have a reason to be angry, and a lot of it is shit that we as men do, where we may be the cause. Having said that, it is very disappointing for anybody watching this or going to watch it behind for a black man to brave the elements, to deal with all the shit that he has to deal with, and to come home to some bitching, angry black woman. Whereas, I hate to say it, for a lot of black men, there is a different mindset sometimes with other women from other cultures, white or Asian or Indian, where there is some sense of the perfect wife kind of thing where, as soon as you walk through the door, you didn't come home and you didn't call and you didn't blah, 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 blah. So that has turned off a lot of men. That's just my personal opinion.
Well, let me say this in support of the black women. Let me say this. I think maybe once upon a time, older generations of black men believe that. But let me say, these younger generations, it doesn't matter what race, ethnicity, they will still come with the same bullshit, the same type of questions, the same type of time. Like that has changed and is changing and is currently changing where they're not taking that shit. They're not taking that
Gotcha.
that whole kind of laying down and just dealing with it. So but as far as like anything else,
so regardless of race, this newer generation, you said they ain't going.
Oh no, they fight. They hit, they attack. They are not for the bullshit right now at all. Not at all.
I bow to your wisdom, and we had a few viewers, and on when I gave that take, we lost them. So there you go. So some was riding with me up. It might have been my women viewers up until I said that. They was like, "Fuck you," but okay. Cece says women today refuse to be doormats. Now they stand up. And for the record, I think that's a good thing, and I'm not in any way alluding to being a doormat. That's not that part. That's why I was careful to try to say a lot of the shit that women in general. So to your point, Tasha, women in general is dumb shit we as men do. So I love that women are speaking up. Personally, I wouldn't have it any other way. I choose women that are vocal and verbal because I can't read your mind. I'm only talking about that. I do think sometimes some men, you know, we have this illusion that the black queen is just that. No, some of these fucking queens out here, you know, they need to put their crown down, is all I'm saying. But that's a whole nother conversation. But I don't want them to be doormats. and I applaud women for standing up, you know, which brings me to the next one. And this one hits right at the heart, the bedrock, where in 1950s tradition, marriage was a lifelong duty. Now, this one right here, we have, when you started over here where it was forever, and we're here in 2025, we know it's not forever. In the 50s, marriage was considered a lifelong commitment. It says, regardless of happiness, compatibility, or whether your spouse turned out to be a complete nightmare. And I agree with that at one point in time, that really was the tradition, because we're talking about a time where there were arranged marriages. And in the South, it was not uncommon for 14, 15-year-olds to get married because they were expected to. We saw this depicted in the movie Color Purple, where the woman didn't have a say. If a father had daughters, it was almost traditional. And I even watched this on the Andy Griffin show where they married them off. And those, when you became a wife, it was forever. It was forever.
I'm so glad that shit went away. I'm so good. I cringe for other women who are, you know, who or young women, young girls who are in those positions to where they still in 2025, there are still girls who do not have a say in it.
Yeah.
And if you've seen the videos, especially like in other cultures, like Middle Eastern culture, they're crying.
Yeah.
They're crying because a lot of times it is an arranged marriage. Sometimes they never even met the person that they're marrying. Sometimes they have met that person, but don't want to marry that person, but they don't have a choice. The Romney people, you know, like they, you know, they're very active in the United States. They still do that with the young girls and everything. I'm grateful in this sense that I did not have to deal with that. That I know that there is a choice and that it doesn't have to be your lifestyle. But even for me, jumping into marriage and my view of marriage is not something to take lightly. I still believe that when you do make that leap of your own volition, your own choice, that it should be forever.
We share that belief. I believe the intention should be forever. And that's why I've only married once. So I agree with you. But I'm also a firm believer that if you're in a bad relationship or marriage, you have, get out. I would not expect anybody to stay. I didn't stay, you know. So for even outside of marriage, if you find yourself in a relationship where you're not valued and you're unhappy, and certainly if there's abuse of any kind of way, no, I don't believe it's forever. I believe everybody deserves to be happy with who they so. And you're right, Tasha. Even in 2025, there are still versions of arranged marriages, and so this one right here, I'm glad that shit doesn't happen. It says today's divorce rate hovers around 40 to 50%, and we thankfully ditched most of the shame. I like that thought right there. Sometimes people grow apart, and that's okay. Life's too short to spend it pretending everything's fine while dying inside. I like that point that they made, that there's no shame attached to it either, because there was a point when a divorced person had to wear some shame. Oh, she's a divorcee. And in many cases, it weighed more heavily on the woman than it did the man. You know what I'm saying?
Okay, let me say this.
Mm-hmm.
Let me say this because I think that it is where there is no shame in getting divorced, there should be some shame sometimes.
I
I
would
was
agree.
watching I was watching a video of this woman on TikTok, popular influencer. She announced that her and her husband were going to get a divorce.
Okay.
Now, before she announced their divorce, and she's in her 30s, they're in their 30s now. Before their divorce, she brought it to TikTok and said that she was thinking about divorcing her husband, not because he's a bad husband, not because he doesn't provide, not because none of that, but essentially she's reached that age where she feels like there's something out there that she was missing.
Wow.
So in that sense, I do think you need a little bit of shame. If you've married somebody that by your own mouth, he's a great father, he's a
Right.
great husband, he's a great provider, he's all of these things, but you are bored in your marriage.
Okay.
You're looking for something else. You're looking for excitement. You don't like where you are, where life is right now for you,
Right.
and you believe that there's something out there. I think you should be shamed and stoned a little bit when you go through divorce. Bring back stoning. No.
Tasha's hard. For somebody like that, I just hope karma catches them. And I
That's
mean, and,
that's what I think is going to end up happening.
and I mean that sincerely because now I won't get too personal there. When to what you're talking about, I witnessed that.
Yeah.
I've literally witnessed that where even in some of the shit that I've done where I knew that why are you stepping out on this person when by all accounts they're not violent, they're a good provider, and you're still stepping out. So I agree with you, McMack, there. I agree with you. Cece, a couple of comments. She says, I want to be your equal, not a shrinking Sharon. We have voices now. We express our feelings. Bravo, sweetheart. I agree with you 1,000%. She says, and was looked upon as less than a woman, like she couldn't keep her man happy. So that there was a time when that was a real thing. Something must be wrong with her. And like I said, the bulk of it went to something must be wrong with the woman that she couldn't keep a man. So much so that in my time, I'm 57 years old, I grew up with the expression Tasha and Cece where a half a man is better than no man at all. Yeah. I literally heard that in my family because the mindset was you did not want to be a single woman at no cost. So even if you could share a man, he's stepping out on you, he's retreat, but girl, don't you let him go because a half a man is better than no man at all. And every time I heard that, even as a young person, I thought to myself, damn, that's really fucked up. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Because we, on the flip side of it, nobody said to a guy, well, she out there fucking such and such and so, but at least you got part of her. That we weren't told that was okay. You know what I'm saying? Like we're expecting her to be devoted. You step out on me, something could happen to you. So I always thought that was really fucked up. Cece says another woman would pay for what she did to a good man because he may become very bitter towards women.
I said the same thing. She's gonna and we don't talk about that. We do talk about there's that Bible trend of the women who say that that show videos before or pictures before like their relationship and then after and during their relationship and like basically kind of like what he did, but we don't talk about it enough that when women are very much capable of doing the same thing.
Very true. Very true. I call that the Maury Povich effect.
Yeah.
I do because the build up, but then when you're not supposed to show that women do that because I don't know, that's shaming and bullying and all that kind of stuff, but they do. They really do. So that's why I say, karma. She said, it's still said today, Lee, and that's wow. See, I didn't know that they still tell women that today.
women, so there are women still of other cultures that, like, I could go right now over to Africa, West Africa, and I could tell them that I'm 36. So some of the first questions, where's your husband? If I tell them I'm not married, what's wrong with you? What's wrong with you?
Wow, 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 wow. Yeah, that one right there again. Yeah, we need to advance it, and there's a reason why the divorce rate is. Some of it's good, some of it's bad, but we do live in this world where people are looking at the grass is greener, and it's sad when people are trying to are making a conscious decision when it's not a real good reason to do it. So we
Yeah.
agree 1,000%, Tasha. Where my intention, if I take those vows, I'm intending it to be forever. And
Right.
I even alluded to the fact that I tell people all the time, the second greatest thing I've ever failed at was my marriage. I view that as a failure. I truly view that as a failure because we didn't live up to the tenets of the vows, and I've even shared with you that I felt like I took the coward's way out. I wasn't equipped then with the tools. I was young, people. I got married at 21. I wasn't equipped with the tools, and I didn't have anybody I felt like I could go to at the time. I still live with regret of not trying to work it out because, to your point, Tasha, we didn't split because there was abuse. And what we had weathered financial pressures. We had weathered family shit. What made my situation particularly sad was just when we had made it, we live in our George Jefferson out in this motherfucker. Then the marriage drifted away. We had all the material shit you could think of. We went from sleeping on a mattress on the floor in a roach infested apartment, no bullshit, to having a house and amassing money at this time. When you think of inflation, what was in our bank accounts would have been the equivalent of having $50,000 or $60,000. We didn't want for anything. We had the material, all the material. We were taking separate trips, but we weren't equipped to stay together, and that bothers me to this day. Cece says exactly, Tasha. Women were supposed to be married by a certain age, or they were frowned upon. So, yeah, I don't agree with that. So I'm glad that we moved away from that tradition. Here's another one, folks. Marriage was your social credit score. Yeah, this one was interesting to me. It says marriage in the 50s wasn't just about love, it was about status. Being married was your ticket to adult society. Single people were viewed with suspicion, like they were missing some crucial life skills. And I'm so glad this came up with me and you, Tasha, because we're single. Are you looked at differently being single from a social status?
Probably. Probably. I would even go so far as that I do wish that this would change, specifically when it comes to um just not only like interpersonal, relationship, but jobs, politics, especially for whatever reason. People think and automatically assume because you have a family or because you're married that automatically makes you trustworthy, or that your opinion or you're just valued more. And a lot of times that couldn't be further from the truth.
I'm so glad you said that, and I'll share with the family. I work in corporate America. If you are single, no kids, there is a different view of you, and there's questions surrounding what happened. Tasha, you agree? You know what I'm saying?
Definitely.
So much so that I've had to create that shield around myself to stop the questions, to be honest with you. Because Tasha, you're right. And maybe people might not believe this. It happens being a man too. you're looked at differently to show up as a single man with no kids. What?
People assume one or two things of
Go
you.
ahead. Go ahead. Go
They
ahead.
assume one or two things,
Go ahead.
that something is wrong with you, or that you're gay.
Or that you're gay. Or that you're gay. That's the secret whispers. And so that this was the thing in the 50s where marriage was a part of your status, you know, and your ticket to adult society. I see that same element of it here, even not just marriage. People go on social media and they want everybody to relationship goals, because to your point, Tasha, they think somehow that makes them more acceptable, more palatable, and you're more trustworthy. We see it depicted on the reality shows. And I hate this, to be honest with you, because I wish we could move the needle to get to a place to show healthy, adjusted adults that are choosing to be single and they're happy with it.
I'm so glad you said that. Tracy Ellis Ross. She
Oh,
has released her new show on, I think it's on like Roku, where she's doing like solo traveling and everything.
I
One
saw
thing
that.
that irritates me the absolute most when because I love her.
Right,
I love Tracy. She is unapologetically her, and she is living her life for herself to the fullest.
right,
And a lot of times when she does interviews, that question always comes up where
right.
people ask her, like, well, basically they allude to the fact that, don't you feel like you're missing something or that you're unfulfilled? And
Mm-hmm.
she constantly has to reiterate to
Right,
them that I
right.
live a very, very fulfilling
Well,
life
correct.
in my own way, without having to have someone to be tethered to build my happiness and base my happiness on. And they always ask her that. That question has been asked and answered. Move on. She's happy.
And she
Why
don't
is
have
it so
any
hard for people
children.
to understand?
Right. And she don't have any children. So what went wrong in your life? You're the daughter of Diana Ross, for God's sake. And you know, what went wrong in your life that you never got married and you never had children? So I'm with you. I've been reading her stuff a lot lately, and she's unapologetically happy being single and fulfilled and talks about that. And I'm glad that you brought it up. I want to see more of that, because you and I have had to have those conversations, you know, with people. For
Yes.
over 10 years, people, oh, you'll find somebody. And when we've shared that, I'm not looking for anybody, you know, like I'm okay dating and here and there. And and even like where I'm at this stage of my life now, folks, it's Saturday night. Let me be clear. I want to be home. Tasha, look,
No.
yo, I hate that the family's not here, because I'm not chasing anything out there anymore. I don't know how many ways I can tell people, and I think I can speak for Tasha. We have enjoyed the scene. There is nothing we're missing.
It's not.
I don't
Not.
this new iteration of what it is. It is 8:49 p.m. There is not an inkling part of me that thinks, man, I should get up and go out tonight. I'm rushing to run my errands so that I can be right here, because I've already taken my shower, folks. I sprayed on my cologne. This is where I want to be, and I don't want company. I don't want anybody over here. I'm perfectly fine.
it's it's such a foreign concept when people are willfully and consciously single. And let me be clear, I'm consciously single in this sense that I'm not looking, not because I believe that there's just nothing out here,
Right,
and that
right,
there's no good men. That couldn't be further from the truth. I believe that there are some good men
right.
out there. For right now, for however long it lasts, I'm so good with just
I love
me
it.
right now.
I
I'm
love it.
so good.
I love it. So that's whole social thing. So yeah, we definitely got. I'm glad we, in a formal way, have moved away, but there's lingering effects of this thing still around that may not ever go away.
Yes.
You know, Cece says, my husband always says, a man can't make you happy. You have to make yourself happy. Don't base your happiness on someone else. I love that your husband is a wise man, CC, because I'll even take it a step further. I wouldn't even want somebody that I am their happiness. I'm attracted to women who have their own independent life. What made my marriage work for as long as it did is we still had our independent lives. We were very different, in fact, opposites. And I love the fact that my wife I was indoors, my wife was outdoors. She liked gardening, being in the sun. I like darkness and being in a dark room. Yeah, we and my girlfriends too, we couldn't have been. I'm a horror fan and I like violence. And the girlfriends I've had, they watch Lifetime and romantic movies and Petticoat Junction and shit. And I don't want to see that. You know, I need some killing and some violence and shit like that. And we had, and so I'm attracted to a woman that I am not responsible for your happiness. Please, how much money you need, baby? Go do what, because there's things you're going to want to do that I may not want to do.
Right.
That's okay. So your husband is a wise man, you know. I will say. Okay, let's move on to another one. I thought this one was interesting. 1950s tradition. The Mrs. degree was a real thing. I didn't know what this was. So again, I always like to learn something. It says, here's something that'll make your college debt feel even worse. Many women in the 1950s attended college primarily to find a husband, not build a career. The term Mrs. degree was actually used without irony. Women were encouraged to get educated enough to be interesting dinner companions for their future husbands, but not so educated that they'd want careers of their own. Ain't that some shit? And when I read this and I saw this on a movie, go ahead, Tasha, this was crazy.
It is so true. It is so true. And you see, I would say, yeah, that there are probably generations of women that did occur, that was a very, very true thing, that you knew going into it, your freshman year of college, by at least the end of your freshman year going into your sophomore, junior year, you had your man. That was the whole point of going to college, was to be able to be, like married off.
Right.
And so that's very real, especially in some of those schools, like the schools that have those reputations. Think Ole Miss and things like that. Those Alabama, those schools that have those reputations. That that's what you're going to get. And it was never, for me, it has never been drilled in me. I was not raised to be a wife. Let me be very clear. My father made it very clear. You were not raised to be a wife.
Right.
You got too much brains. Get your education, go to school. Everything else will come later. I was not raised to be a wife.
Tasha, you bring up a point that I have to bring up because the hairs on my arm are standing up. For those of you who don't know, Tasha has an MBA. Tasha, that intimidates and turns off a lot of men. That intimidates and turns off a lot of men. I'm 57. I'm 20 years older than you. I remember going to school where women were expected to take cooking classes and home ec and this, that, and the other. And one of the things that drew me to you as a friend, I've always shared this with people who don't know. I said, well, Big Mac is like a guy. She's like she has like male energy. Your intellect, your intelligence, for a lot of men, Tasha, that's a term, because they want you educated, but not too educated.
No, I got too much
balance. And I know you can comment on this, to where you can have a point to make in disagreement with them. And I think about, again, I'm a big movie buff, for people who don't know, and I love older movies. I think about movies with Marilyn Monroe and Doris Day and all those movies, how the dumb blonde, the roles that they had to play because they couldn't let on that they were smarter than the man. They could not let on. So when I read this, like, oh my God, it until you say, especially like in the South, this was a real thing that you go to school, but don't think about going to work. You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
You go to school, but you don't need to think about like graduate school. No,
Right.
like be serious. Like you can get your degree, but you're not thinking about going to like law school or
Right.
kind of thing.
Do you
So
think that's the reason why women today exponentially get educated more than men?
what, like as like an overcompensation?
Or maybe because they weren't allowed to. Women in our business, women go to school, they get their degrees at a much greater rate than men do.
Let let me be very clear about and some people, and I could be way wrong, but I'm almost positive about what I'm gonna say. Most women who go to school and get like their initial degree, like their BA, anything that comes after that is a reaction to something wrong going in your life, whether it be a relationship or something happened to where I can't focus on anything. I'm just gonna go back to school. Fuck this shit. I'm just gonna go back to school. It's a reaction to that relationship didn't work out. You know what? I'm bored. Fuck it. I'm just gonna go to school. That's how I ended up going back to school. I had a relationship and I was like, fuck it, I'm just gonna go back to school.
I
If
love
black
this
women
show.
don't do nothing else, we go fuck it, just get another degree.
I
Might as
love
well.
this
Fuck
show.
it.
I tell you, people, you learn something all the time. That's why there's things I don't know. I thank you for sharing that. Cece says that was my dad too, Tasha. She's talking about her dad groomed her to not be a wife. That you're too educated to be a wife, for sure. That's crazy.
I think about how different my life. So I think about my mom and my stepmom are two very different people.
Okay.
Just in the people that they are, but they both are educated. My stepmom, she also has her MBA. My mom, she has her BA. She has a Bachelor of Science as well, so she has her degree. But I think about constantly, like, if my dad had married someone or had kids with someone whose thought process was, I'm marrying, making wives, like that's you're gonna be your focus, is making
Right.
family, like really focusing
Right.
on that, how different my life would be, how different
Okay.
everything would have
Right.
turned out.
Right.
So
Man, that's what's this is something else. I love that they gave statistically, they said the average marriage age for women was 20 in the 1950s, which again, I talked about.
yeah.
Even when I moved to the South when I was 17, 40 years ago, they got married so young. Today is closer to 28. Women are using those extra years to build careers, travel, and figure out who they are outside of being someone's wife. And I do love that.
Yeah.
I am a major fan of that. I would tell anybody now, getting married before the age of 30, I wouldn't recommend it. I personally wouldn't recommend it. I think you need those years to figure out who you are. And I mean this male and female, just so you
Yeah.
know. I think you should date and see other people and not get so serious. I'm an advocate of that. I think when you cross 30 and you've lived a little, traveled, done some shit, made some mistakes, you have a better sense of what you want, what you like, what you're willing to take, those things. So I love that statistic, and I think that's a good thing. I even think maybe some of the numbers that contribute to the divorce rate is some are still marrying way too fucking young, because they're married for the wrong reasons. I want to get away from my situation. I don't need a father figure or for security, whatever. I think, the marriages that last, I think people, get to know who they are better, more. So that one's interesting. Let's go to another one. We got time, folks. 1950s tradition, financial dependence was the goal, not the problem. This is where I wish I had the other family members here on this one because, again, I'm reading this in real time. I don't look at these things beforehand. It says women were expected to be financially dependent on their husbands, not as a temporary arrangement, but as the permanent plan. Men controlled all household finances, made investment decisions, and essentially held the purse strings to their wives' lives. I don't think I even have to.
That gives me so much anxiety. Like, let me be clear. I think that that's probably more so like my own like issues. Like I have control issues. Having to rely on someone else for my livelihood like that. Oh no. 2025. No, I could not do that. Waiting for somebody to dole me out some money like a child to buy some shit. I gotta account for everything. Oh no, that's horrible. I could not do that. No.
Tasha, you have a problem even fucking asking somebody for a favor. So you really do. There's some other things that you're independent. I wish
I have control. I know I'm hyper independent and I got some serious control issues. But that right there, to be 100% financially dependent on somebody where they can throw that in your face at any time, they can hold that above you at any time. That's why, like, sometimes, like nowadays, like when women, I feel like with the newer generations and they, wanting somebody just to shell out money, like on them and trick off money to them immediately. And they're like, well, I want to be paid for my time. To me, you're giving up a little bit of your control, because if you're putting a price point out there, then that sometimes that person, whoever you're giving it to, feels like that they're going to be able to treat you and do you any kind of way as long as they have the money to do so. I don't like that.
Well, Cece Witch, she said, nope. Can't do that. Never, ever.
Ever.
She said, my daddy always taught me to have my own.
Yes.
And my husband can't understand why I won't ask him for money. That was a little odd for me, CC, because I don't know. That's my situation. So let me explain my views on this. For the record, I agree with you, Tasha. I agree with you, CC. I definitely am glad we've moved away from any person being financially dependent on another person. First of all, we know now in today's household, it pretty much takes two incomes if you're going to be together. That's why I said at the top of the show, if I could make that kind of money, I would. I wish I could. I wish I could make enough. I wish I had the skill set, the jobs, or whatever, that I could make $200,000-$300,000 a year to be able to tell my woman, whether she's married to or not, baby, you ain't got to work. I wish I could have the Gucci thing, the Gucci man. That look, I'm gonna go out here, I'm gonna get this bread, blah blah blah, and you got me on every other kind of way. You know what I'm saying? That you it is a partnership still. But okay, having said that, I would not want. Not only do I think it's fucked up, I wouldn't want to even be in that position where somebody's financially dependent on me. So I like what you said, Tasha. I have to ask somebody, but I want to explain something in this essence, because I feel it's necessary to talk about how my marriage was. I was the head of my household. I did make the ultimate decisions, but I swear to you, on the souls of my two brothers, it was not a situation where I controlled the money.
Mm-hmm.
My wife could go to the bank anytime she wanted to, and she did. So let me be clear. This was not a situation where every day I'm checking a bank account and we had to count for it was not a situation. And what was crazy was both of our checks were auto deposited, and this was when that was fairly new.
Yeah.
This was at a time when that was relatively new. And this was coming off at a time when you had to physically sit down and write a check. I was learning to trust ATM machines at this time I was married, because this was a time when you still had a checkbook. So I literally would sit at a table and balance. The only time I really knew money was gone was when I'm sitting at that table and now, okay, I'm physically writing a check, y'all, to pay MLGW. I'm physically writing a check to pay our mortgage. And then I look at the bank account and the numbers didn't add. That's when it was, baby, did you buy something? But for the record, she had as much access. I didn't find out until months later that she was sending her mom monthly, sending her mother money monthly to clothe her little sister. I was pissed, you know, but it was nothing I could do about it. And it was as much her money as it was my money. My thing at that point was, baby, why don't you tell me? I'm trying to make sure, because my thing was, this is the part that people may not hear. Her output was far greater than mine. As a woman, she always needed shit and wanted shit and got shit. Sometimes I would wake up and her car would be there. And you know what that meant if I got up, because we worked different schedules. My day didn't start to 12, hers started 6 a.m. If I opened the door and her car was sitting there, you know what that meant? Her car ain't got no gas. She left it there for me. So now, as I gas the car up, I open the trunk. You know what I would find, folks? 4 fucking pairs of shoes and clothes that she had bought and balled up and stuffed in the trunk, hidden.
You were supposed to be going in there no way. That ain't where the gas tank is.
You're probably right. You're probably right. So I'm gonna tell you what I would do. I would lay that shit calmly out on the bed, gas her car up, and go on about my business, knowing that when she come home and see, I know you bought this shit, but there was nothing I could do about it, because guess what, folks? I was a simple person. My needs were very simple. My wife at the time was a goat. She went out. She had friends. She did a thing, go to pool party, this and that. All I did, I watched TV. My one big purchase in the entire fucking marriage, I bought a big screen TV. This was back when the TVs was them real big monstrosity type shits. And even then, I'm like, oh, my baby, I should. She said, no, baby, buy it outright. You deserve it. She encouraged. So I'm only telling you guys this story to say that I've never wanted to somehow depended on me financially. She worked, made her money and did her thing. Part of what drew the marriage apart was the fact that every time I fucking looked up, she was going some fucking where. She was going here, going there, blah, blah, blah. So I wouldn't even want somebody that's financially dependent on me. You know, Cece says being nosy. She says, I've always had my own. And like Tasha says, I can't be dependent on anyone but me, because I won't disappoint me. The only thing I'd say there, though, this gonna sound crazy, Tasha, this gonna sound crazy, Cece. As a guy, it was cool to have your wife ask you for money. I don't know if y'all will ever understand that. It's not that she needs it. And sometimes, and not just wife, girlfriends, and my sister even does that to me. My sister is famous for making sure when me and her sons are all standing around talking, and it ain't nothing but men, and walking up and saying, give me $20, give me $50. She puts you on the spot because you're standing there with all men that you'll look like a fucking cheapskate if you don't give it to her.
I can't do it, because the first time you tell me no, fuck you. Okay, fuck it. Fuck you. Fuck all this. Fuck everything. Fuck this. I'm not gonna drink out your hand. Fuck everything, because you couldn't just fucking say yes. So.
See, Tasha and Cece, is it okay for the man to say, hey, baby, okay, you come up, you say, I need $100. What you need it for? Is that okay to ask?
No, especially me. because it then took me like 3 weeks to fucking even come up to come up with the, you know, the humility to even approach you to even fucking ask it. And so now here you come back with questions. Don't ask me questions. Just fucking, just never mind. I'll go make another.
This is in full lockstep. She say, hell no, it ain't okay to ask. It's a simple question. And she says, I don't know, Lee. Maybe it's my pride. I just can't do it.
I can't. Mm-mm.
I bow. I bow. That's why a wise man knows his wife, knows his woman, and like, baby, I have evolved. So, in case you're wondering, I understand it. If I was in a relationship now and a woman said that, look, I'm gonna have my own separate account. Okay. I'm not going to make that a thing that I'm going to argue with her about, because in the grand scheme of things, for me, that's not that important. You know what? I hope she make more money than you. I'm gonna come up to you, Tasha, and say, can I have $100 shit? Give me $100.
Okay.
You know,
Fine.
I don't have a problem asking some shit. Okay. Here's another one. What about the 1950s tradition of having household hierarchies? And it talks about how, remember the show Father Knows Best? The 1950s household had a clear chain of command. Husband at the top, wife and children below. Dad made the big decisions and most of the small ones, while mom implemented them with a smile. Cece, Tasha, you have a problem with a man being the head and being recognized as the head of the relationship? You got it take you that long?
I'm just trying to think, like, the head of the relationship, like,
you object to the term.
No, like it ain't no discussion, like we ain't gonna talk about it. like this ain't no discussion. We're not gonna discuss our opinions. We just, you know, I'm gonna say, well, I think this, you can be like, well, I think this, so we gonna do this. No, because my way makes way more sense. So I don't know. Maybe in some things, you know, maybe in some things, you know, like a household hierarchy is a good thing. I'm trying to think, like, even
I got one pushback for you. Pushback for you.
Okay.
Because I'm loving what you said, but I got one pushback. Cece says no, because I'm the shoulders that holds the head up. So I got one pushback for you. Was it you or somebody else that said, shit, I'm tired of making all these decisions?
Me? Shit.
So, given the right,
we still don't have a discussion.
Okay,
we still don't have a discussion.
That's what I want to ask.
More than likely, you better do it just the way that I did. You just do it my way. We're gonna have a discussion. Just do it my way. Because I've evaluated it from all positions. Okay, I have over analyzed this. Just do it my way. Okay.
I gotta admit, this one for me, it's not antiquated. I am still a firm believer. You have to have a head. Now, let me, Cece and Tasha, the man has to demonstrate the ability to lead and make good decisions.
Okay, give me an example.
I tend to think long term, and the relationships I've been in, they're thinking short term. So, baby, let's go and I want to eat out every week. And I'm saying, no, sweetheart, no, because I'm thinking I would rather save that money so that we can take a big trip rather than go out every other week. I asked your question on the last show a month ago about how often you get your hair done and stuff. I think if I say, well, baby, why don't you do your nails sometime? My thing is get them done once a month, this, that, and the other. I'm thinking that's money that's saved in a household so we can do something else with it. Now, because I'm thinking long term, because here's my experience with women. You may pop up for no good reason that I can think of as a wife, as a girlfriend. I want new furniture. even though to me ain't shit wrong with the furniture. I have come home and all my fucking underwear is gone because she's made the decision she didn't want to look at them no more. I've come home to we needed a new refrigerator, but what nothing wrong with the motherfucker that we had in there. So I'm thinking in terms of I have to pad the nest, Tasha, for those kinds of moments. Am I wrong?
No, maybe. I don't know. Cause shit. I was just thinking I wanted new furniture the other day, but damn self. Ain't nothing wrong with this furniture.
I have seen you do that. I've seen women do that for no, to us, no good reason. You want the new washer and dryer, or you want this specific. I'm talking about your ass right now because you just said that. I thought it through. So when you want something, you want that. That's the one I want. So as a guy, I have to account for, I would be okay with this one, but she's going to want that one. So please, ladies, give me some grace and shit to, you know what? I think the roles are reversed. Let me feel like I'm in charge, goddammit.
Maybe that's what it is.
I'll take that. I concede that the house, I could care less about, just let me feel like shit I'm in control. So when I walk out the room, you can tell your friend, yeah, don't worry about it.
Right.
Give me that. Don't snatch that. Don't take the big piece of chicken, as Chris Rock would say. Shit. He says no, Lee, but to be honest, I'm looking for new furniture as we speak.
I'm saying, like, I like my couch, but I still want a new one.
Now, Tasha, you know me. You help me pick this furniture out. If it's up to me, I won't buy furniture again for 10 years. I rarely sit on it, Tasha.
Right. Hey, mine is only 3 years old, and I just want it just because I want it.
I know this, and that's my point. If I barely sit on this furniture, if I met a woman and she just for no fucking reason says, I don't like blue and I want to change the living room and now I want it to be beige, I'm going to be like, well, ain't nothing wrong with this couch. Ain't nobody fucked on it. Ain't nobody slept on it, but I want a new one. I have to account for that. So this one, ladies, let us believe. Don't take the big piece of chicken, please.
Okay, not in your face.
That one don't take from us. The hierarchy one don't take from us. You're already telling us we got to change the vowels because we don't want to use the word obey. I'm okay with that. Let's take that out of there. But don't take the big piece of chicken. She says, mine is 15 years old. And I just want something different now, and it's in great shape. Okay, you know what? Y'all have got y'all worth, Cece, out of that furniture. You will have no argument out of me. But I'm talking about, I've seen my sister do it for no reason. I've seen my sister, the one that I went to the wedding for, have furniture that was less than 2 years old, and she decided she wanted to give that furniture to her grandchild. So now he came home and the furniture was gone. She just decided, I'm giving that I don't want to put no names out there. And that was that on that. That's the kind of stuff I'm talking about, folks. But leave the hierarchy, leave that in place. We down to a couple of more. 1950s tradition, communications was limited to safe topics. I think it's safe to say that this is antiquated. It says, forget about open communication. 1950s couples were expected to keep certain topics completely off limits. Sex, money, and personal struggles were considered inappropriate dinner conversation, even between spouses. Now, while I don't think it should be discussed at dinner, But Tasha, I think you would, what would you say about, are there any off limit topics that shouldn't happen in a relationship, marriage or otherwise?
No, there shouldn't be any, but there are some people who shy away from conflict or disagreement because they don't
Very
want
true.
to, they just
Very,
don't want to go through the whole thing. And sometimes, I mean, that just me, I like to argue sometimes just for the sake of
okay.
arguing. I may not even agree with what the fuck I'm saying, but just because
I'm glad
you
you
express
admit
a
that.
point,
I'm glad to
I
hear
like
what you with that.
I just might take the opposition just because. But
I,
there's somebody I know that he absolutely hates to discuss, to get into things that is like less than surface level. He don't like to get off into
I
anything
didn't think
too deep.
about that, Tasha.
Yeah,
You
or
make a good
anything
point.
that's like just in opposition. He doesn't like that. And I'm like, why?
And,
It's
and,
part of
and,
being an adult.
and I'm glad you brought that up, because let's go to the flip side of that. We both know somebody that they didn't think it was proper to tell kids that they were struggling. It was
Mm.
easier to pretend, I'm going to go out, we're going to still go out and have a lavish holiday season, even though we're not going to pay rent.
Or the light bill.
Or
the water bill.
And so I wasn't thinking about it from that standpoint, that's a version of this, that there are some people that they're good at avoiding adulting.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't think about it from that perspective, because you're right. I think there shouldn't be any, it shouldn't be, but you make a very, very good point. Cece says women didn't have a voice then. She says, I agree, Tasha, we need to be open about everything. And so I'm so in agreement with you on this, Cece. I can't see myself getting serious with anybody if we don't discuss the important thing. The surface things are okay, but I couldn't be serious with you without knowing what are your values and views on ass beatings and, I mean, religion. You know what I'm saying? Like, my mind went blank. What am I trying to say about beating kids? What's the word?
Domestic. You talking about like corporal punishment?
Corporal punishment. So
I'm
only I can
thinking
think of is
domestic
beating
violence.
somebody's
Like, what do you mean?
Well, the words would come to me, but I would want to know, if I'm getting to know somebody, like, where do you stand on serious topics, but and to Tasha's point, that's a red flag if I've got somebody that's always avoiding talking about the serious things, because at many points, not some point, you're going to have to talk about, serious topics that's going to come up. Cece says, oh no, my kids knew we didn't have everything. We know somebody that, that was a thing, and I grew up in a household where we knew my mom couldn't afford certain things. To me, it made us more appreciative that when Christmas, for example, did come and we woke up and there was something, because she had told us on the front end, number one, there was 11 of us ugly motherfuckers running around that house, Cece. So that we knew that everybody wasn't going to wake up with a bicycle and this, that, and the other. One of my favorite memories of Christmas, using this as an example, I don't know if Tasha, you might be young. Do you know what Tinker Toys are?
Describe it, probably.
A big fucking can with wheels and sticks and stuff.
Oh yeah.
There literally was Tinker Toys where it was a big, like, tin can where you dumped it all out and you kind of put these wheels and stuff. That's what I got one year. That was my main toy. And I couldn't have been happier. And my friends on the third floor, they got a bicycle and this, that, and the other. But back then, later in that day, you went and you shared what you had with that person. So I got to ride his bike. This, that. It made us more appreciative that my mom had worked to make sure we had something. you know. And for the older kids, there weren't any toys. This wasn't a time where it was clothes, you know. And so now look up to today. I think it's not healthy to have kids today thinking that they've inherited a certain kind of car. What if you're buying your child a car, but you can't afford a Tesla? But if you raise them with unrealistic expectations, so I know that's going a little off topic, but those conversations have to happen, you know. Oh, Cece says, and Lincoln Laws, I had to spend hours putting it together. Definitely. Yeah, these probably they have no clue what that was, but that was a real toy back then. Fucking Lincoln Logs, and you know, this era of where you get a $700 PS machine or whatever. You know, I didn't come from that era. You know.
Well, they still have kids that do Legos, except Legos are insanely expensive now. Insanely expensive. Let me ask you this though, like as far as this communication was limited to safe topics, are there any topics that would be considered taboo that 100% like we could talk about it? Don't get crazy. Don't go too far off into it now.
Not for me. Not for me. If I hope there's nothing you can't ask. This is the caveat. Do you want to know?
Okay.
Do you really want to know? I've always been that person, Tasha, where I'll answer any question. How much do you really want to know? So think before you ask whatever that is, because I'm going to tell it all, you know. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, but as far as there's no taboo. So now let me flip that. There's things I would never ask her.
Ooh, like what? I'm nosy now. Like what?
We joke all the time. I would never, in all seriousness, on the souls of my brother, I truly wouldn't want to know a woman's body count. Doesn't matter to me.
Okay. Yeah.
Doesn't matter to me. That's one thing where I won't go. I'll take whatever you share with me about a past relationship as it relates to us. But to sit up and just talk about it, I don't even want to hear that shit.
Would you ever ask a woman if you were her best? Like, would you want to know if you were the best? Okay, you would never even ask. Okay.
No, I wouldn't even want to know. Please, lady, keep that to yourself. You want to talk about some demoralizing shit? Don't you ever share, well, you know, you're pretty good, but he did fuck me better. No, see, don't ever share that with me.
Now we fighting.
I'm never gonna fight, but that ain't gonna never. She need to understand that'll never leave me.
Okay.
That'll never leave me, and I don't want to be in a situation where now I got to be thinking about, well, what did he do that I'm not doing?
Okay.
Yeah, no.
But if somebody asks, they have a right to know. Would you ever advise a woman if a man asks you that? Would you ever tell them be honest? They ask.
Ooh,
so it's the cut water. I done went off into. It's the cut water.
You know what, that would really depend on you. This is where you have to truly know that person. Can they handle it? You know, that you ask that. There's a time and a place to lie. I feel. Oh, I want to ask. So I'm gonna ask you and Cece. Do you think the absolute truth is always the best route?
The absolute truth.
The absolute truth, because what you said. If a man came to you and said, "Baby, let me ask you, am I the best lover you ever had? Have you ever had anybody to make you feel better?" Is it always, without a doubt, the truth, nothing but the truth? So help me God. Is there ever a good reason to lie to your partner? Because Cece says nope. Everything is talked about. So She says, and the same for men too. So is there some part that either one you would hold back things, and some parts where it's appropriate to tell a lie? Cece, I want to know your answer too.
I don't know if I would lie. I would probably say something like, "I'm not answering that."
Okay.
Probably
Ooh.
withhold. I'm not answering that question.
Okay. Okay.
And that's the end. And that's the end of that topic. I'm not
Which,
answering that. Period.
which for me, that would plague me.
Yeah.
That you wouldn't answer. But that's why I have tried to be wise enough that there's certain things I don't want to know. I just don't want to know. And again, anything you share with me about an ex, it needs to be in some way in context with why this mattered to me. You know?
Oh, okay. Don't be popping up with random stories.
Yeah, no. I'm not like you're gonna get the worst of me if you just randomly coming out. We laying back and shit, watching TV or finish doing whatever. Oh, George used to such and such. What? You know, where the fuck did that come from? You know, and why are you bringing this up now?
Right.
Says, I wouldn't lie, but I will compare my past to my present. She said she wouldn't lie. So, Cece, I respect that. There's certain things I wouldn't ask because I wouldn't want to know. I'm going to assume you have a past. I'm even going to assume you were with them for good reasons, and that whatever you and the longer you was in it, it had to be good at some point, and that's fine. But I don't even want to know where did he take you and what it. No, I wouldn't even want to know. Wouldn't even want to know. You know, for me. All right. Interesting. I think we're down to we'll kind of wrap up these last couple. Single mothers face severe social shaming. We'll kind of skip over that because I think we kind of talked about that already.
Yeah.
You know, and in the past that was a thing. I'm glad we moved past that. There's a host of reasons why somebody ends up being single. As we mentioned, that if you're in a bad relationship, I've always felt like staying for the kids is never a good thing.
Right.
Be free. And you shouldn't be shamed for it. Now, you said something earlier. I will add this. You said there are circumstances where it should be a shame. Now, this is where shame should come. Now, if you just laying down popping up babies, you do need to have a big fucking W stamped across your head, you know, and W for whore, a W or an H.
No, right. Not winner.
No, you are not a winner. You are not a winner. No, you know, and I do object to the idea that some women, and I'm sorry to say this because it's hypocritical, but unfortunately, the women do, in my opinion, get the blame for this. Don't go out and have 5, 6 kids and shit. Now you meet me, and now you got these extra morals in place and shit that you don't want to fuck before we get serious, you know, and all that kind of stuff. Look, you clearly enjoy fucking.
See, you gotta be careful now, because she's super fertile. So,
True, but I'm just saying, though. But don't all of a sudden now your standards are raised, you know, and you see that with this chick got 6 kids and shit, 5 kids. All these little motherfuckers' teeth look like they've been chewing on cans and shit. And now you want to talk about he got to be 6'2" and this, that, the other. Bitch, you forfeited your right to all of them standards a long time ago.
You gonna get canceled? Did the viewers come back? Nope.
This says a large neon L. Thank you. Now, we need them days back where people do need to be branded. CC, I gotta say, sometimes it could. We have commercials that when they selling you a pharmaceutical and through the commercial they have the little thing at the bottom. this will cause diarrhea, such, such, such. People need to come with a fucking warning label. Sometimes, some of them. You know? What about 1950s tradition? Marriage was more of a social obligation than a personal choice. Again, we kind of talked about that already.
We talked about that.
So I think we can skip that one. Oh, here's a good one. I didn't want to, that's why I was rich, because I didn't want to forget this one. 1950s tradition, racial restrictions on marriage. Tasha, you're the perfect person to answer this. You know, it says this one's particularly jarring. 24 states still had laws, this is 1950s, prohibiting interracial marriage in the early 1950s. Couples who fell in love across racial lines faced legal barriers and social hostility that's hard to imagine today. These laws weren't just paperwork. They were enforced with real consequences. Interracial couples risked imprisonment, social ostracism, and violence. And then, of course, it talks about how far we've come. That from 1967, these laws were declared unconstitutional. And today, interracial marriages account for 19% of new marriages. So love, in this case, wins. But I wanted to ask a question. Is there some validity, Tasha, to marrying within your own race?
Is there validity to it?
Yeah. Is there a value, or however you want to say that? What do you think? And there's a reason why I asked this. I want you to really contemplate this. Our boy, Brother Kenny, he talks about black love. I believe in black love, black love, black love. And so and I'm not accusing Kenny of this, just for the record, but there is a lot of people that today in 2025, directly or indirectly, do believe that we need to focus on black love.
Okay.
Where do you stand on that?
I would say this. I think, well, number one, I think I'm going to be biased in this, that I do think that there is value with marrying outside of your race and being exposed to something different. I liken it to, I think about it like this, not marrying somebody that you grew up like in the same neighborhood with, in the same state you come from, just marrying somebody from somewhere else that can give you a different perspective, a different custom, maybe it'll open up something else in you. I know that there is a focus on black love and marrying black and growing the black community and the black family, and that's great and all. But I do think that sometimes by limiting yourself by something where you're only marrying that way because you have this ideal that person, because they share a physical characteristic with you, is going to be able to, to do something for you and to resolve something in you. I think that that's limiting. I think that's very limiting. And it's dangerous in that sense, because you're shutting off everything else and any other possibility that could be. So I personally think, as long as it's another consenting adult,
right,
and it has to be a person, and I'm not marrying things, animals, things like that.
Right.
By all means, spread it around. Like I do think that if it was intended for people to solely marry only racially, I think we would have been I think we would have been created that way if we were meant to stick to only racially. I think we would have been created that way.
Okay. We share a couple of comments. Cece says, this was from the last topic. My aunt always said, every time you lay down, you don't have to get pregnant.
That's the truth.
I agree. Jack Johnson was a perfect example. He was in prison for marrying a white woman and transporting her across state lines. We have a litany of examples of that. I think about the 1950s, how controversial it was when Sammy Davis Jr. being a part of the Rat Pack, had a white wife, this, that, and the other, and always, and it's always going to be some element of racial stuff.
Yeah.
Here's my thing. One of the things I'm really happy about, and me and my nephew, we talk about this all the time. I'm so happy that when I go back and think about 20 years ago, forget 70 years ago, how people used to look at you if you were an interracial couple. I'm so glad we've gotten away from that. I'm so glad that in 2025, I've been saying this on my social platform. There's very little. You talked about this a little earlier, Tasha, in a different topic. You were talking about how women of any race now, they ain't going. You know what they also are now? Pretty much people are just people now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad now that we pretty much all eat the same shit, do the same shit, listen to the same music. In my time, I remember when a white girl was real thin, real flat, this, that was definitely beauty. You know what? You walk outside now, and I ain't just talking about here in Atlanta, anywhere. I just left Arkansas. Shit. One of my favorite lines in the movie Sinners, the white girl comes into the club, one of my favorite lines in the movie, and the nephew, she said, "Shit, I'll beat every bitch ass in here." That was one of the coldest lines from this white girl, because there's no difference now. There's always going to be some cultural thing. We know this. But in 2025, we really fucking everybody. Everybody's fucking everybody. You know what I'm saying? And so my thing is, whoever you find that you're compatible with, if they can stand you and you can stand them, bravo. I find myself now at this stage of my life being more drawn to others than my own. That doesn't mean I don't love Black women. That don't mean I'm looking to date exclusive of Black women. But I have no problem whatsoever that if I find a woman that does it for me, that's not into twerking and all that kind of shit, because my list now, it has nothing to do with race. It's the other shit that I'm looking for. So I'm glad that we have transitioned far from that to where we are now. And I think, and to your point, Tasha, I think you are limiting yourself greatly if you just, the moment you pigeonhole your search and that's the only thing I'm looking for. And that goes for Black women as well. You know, I'm okay with open. Look, not everybody want you, and that's okay. You know, find the way you can find it. Cece says, truly, we don't look at different races the same as like we used to. I'm glad of that. I'm glad. We always going to have that fringe element that's always going to keep putting race out there in the forefront. But I'm glad that we recognize that's noise. I show up in Zooms I can truly sit here and tell you, even working for corporate America, we have embraced the fact that, oh my God, when the holiday season come, we were laughing last year in my little group. There were some white people that didn't know that they make pumpkin pies, not sweet potato pies. And I was killing myself laughing because they was like, you can make a pie out of sweet potato pie. It's cool that we're still learning these things, but not to the point of, oh my God, you eat, you know what I'm saying? It wasn't that. It was, we had an honest conversation about, and I joke with Tasha about this a lot of times, that a Christmas, for example, we use an example, it does look different in an Asian home than in a Black home, but not on a racial shit. That's the way it's done, Yeah. And so I love that that in many ways we've got past that. And when it comes to marriage, I'm glad it's not illegal. I'm glad that people can do whatever they want with whoever they find happiness with. Cece says, from my ancestry research, I found so many of my ancestors were white or lighted up to pass as white. Oh my God. Now, if you want to, that's a whole nother conversation. If you from the South, the crazy part is we all mixed in anyway. You know, there's a reason why people from the South migrated to the North and vice versa. Shit, you know, we need to cut that shit out. You know what I'm saying? So, all right, we got our last one. 1950s tradition. Childbearing was immediate and frequent. Once you got married, the clock started ticking. Women were expected to start having babies immediately and lots of them. Birth control was limited and stigmatized. The pill wasn't widely available until the 1960s, and discussing family planning was considered inappropriate.
I'm so glad this is passed. I'm so
Yeah.
glad. And
Yeah.
they just released that the overall birthing rate has decreased. Keep
Yes.
going, ladies. Keep going. Keep
That to
going.
say that it said the average family had 3.7 children compared to today's 1.9. I'm a product of that generation where you weren't, you didn't get an abortion. If you got an abortion, you know, you had to sneak around, and again, you couldn't be found out. You were stigmatized, this, that, and the other. And even in you know, my time, families that you came from 6, 7, 8, it's 11 of us. People aren't fucking having that many kids today, economically, socially. Just nobody's doing that anymore. You know, she says all of my mother's children are 9 to 10 months apart. My daddy kept her pregnant. LOL. Cece, that's the way it was in my family, and they were expected to have a bunch of kids. And I'm glad that women, in particular, you know, woke up one day and said, "Nope."
I think about my mom. She was like in her 20s and she had 3 kids. My brother,
Right.
he was born in 87. I'm born in 88. My brother after me, he was born in 1990. Ain't no fucking way. Ain't no
Right.
fucking way.
Right.
No way.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm so I'm glad that changed, because we, number one, we need population control just in general, you know. And I wish somebody would have told some of the fucking Africans long before we got to this point to stop having all these goddamn babies. But Indians too, all them fuckers having all those kids, knowing you can't feed these motherfuckers, and now they got flies all over their face and shit, and they sitting in the dirt. But that's a whole nother conversation.
And you know, see something else too, like you don't see it as often, but there are still people out there who have these large nuclear families where they're having like multiple children. And you know, like your birth rank plays so much into like who you become like as a person. There's a family, well, there's multiple families like on TikTok, but there was a family on TikTok where it's gotten popular doing like the gender reveals or the pregnancy
Right.
reveals, where they're doing this live or they're videotaping it, and the faces of the older children when the parents are announcing this is, you know, for a lot of them, I feel so bad. Like sometimes I saw one recently. It's like an interracial family, and the oldest daughter, like she cried. Like the oldest kids cried. They were like, why would you do that? Hell, I'm 36. I would be so disappointed in my parents if they had kids now. I'd be like, y'all are so irresponsible. They would get such a tongue lashing right now.
That all of a sudden you got to be a big sister all over to a little sister. Yeah, that, you know. She said no, because I won't repeat it.
See?
She said I won't repeat it. But anyway, I'm glad we did the show. You know, we missed a lot of family members, but we know a lot's going on. Cece, thank you so much for
Yes.
staying for the whole show and being a part of it. And I'm glad I did it. You know, we're back. You know, hopefully I'll plan something more fun for next weekend. But as I said, for you, enjoy the little break in the weather for sure. And I appreciate seeing you guys on a Saturday. I'm getting ready to find me a nice movie, but enjoyed having this conversation, and it all stemmed, in case anybody catch the end of it, I got a chance to witness 48 years of marriage and what that looks like. And CC, congratulations, you're going 30. It's not that is not something you see often anymore. And I take my hat off for those of you who have been able to weather the storm. And I just think we can learn so much from you. So thank you, CC, for being a part of the show. I appreciate your views, your values, your insight. There's lots of us still trying to figure this stuff out. And so thank you so much. So Big Mac, thank you for popping in. I know there's other things you could have been doing. Lord knows it cut into your weekend, but baby, thank you so much. I'm glad I got a chance to see you. I talked to you earlier, but I'll close by saying again, you look phenomenal. That tan, sweetheart, you look phenomenal.
Tannin, thank you.
It looks good. Keep doing your thing, sweetheart, and enjoy what's left of the summer. Enjoy what's left of the weekend. Tell everybody you know, love them. Life is not promised to any of us, and keep holding down the fort. We will see you hopefully on the next weekend. Peace out.